Okay, my inspiration for you today is coming from a guy named Tom Brady. And I just kind of want to read it to you. It says, the only thing that will stop you from fulfilling your dream is you. And I want to let that sink in for a minute. What is your dream? If you come here, there's something that the reason you come here is because you are interested in publishing perhaps your first book. Well, is your dream to become an author? I'm here to tell you that it's reachable. I didn't have a clue. I really did not want to do a book, but as God would have it, that was His purpose for my life, that I would tell my story, would produce my first book to tell my story. Welcome to Clayton Communications and Publishing. This is our FB or Facebook online Thursday newsletter where we turn your stories into book. I am Coach Blondie, your host for today. And today I'm going to be providing some tips to you to guide your success as a self-published author. Are you ready? Okay, let's get started. Do you have questions about publishing? Well, if you do have questions about publishing, I know I did. When I entered into the arena of publishing, I didn't know what questions to ask. I didn't know what I needed to know. I probably had a few basic questions like, well, what is publishing? Who publishes? Where can I find publishers like that? But not some of the things that I'm going to share with you today. And these are my frequently asked questions. And so I just kind of want to share with you. I'm going to kick it off with how many books should you print? Well, it really depends on you. It depends upon what you plan to do. How are you in it to win, or are you just in it just because it's something to do? You just want to kind of scratch that off of your bucket list. What I would suggest that you do is you would look at your investment. What did it cost you to have your book published? And if you can look at it, you look at that and you say, well, if it costs you, let's say X, Y, and Z, then you would look at that and you would see, okay, how close would you come if you purchased 50 books or 100 books or 200 books? How close would you come to recouping your investment? Now, I'm going to tell you, you don't want to go and buy 100 books or 200 books if you don't have a plan. So you really need to have a plan in terms of, if I buy those books, here's what I'm going to do with those books because I want to recoup my investment. So that's the first thought. And the next thing is looking at the traditional publisher. How much does it cost for a traditional publisher to publish a book? And of course, that can vary depending upon who the person is, because it would depend upon then how many books they would actually print. But on average, it varies from about $5,000 up. Now, if you are a self-publisher, then you can look at that and you may spend 2,000, but that's only if you are, let's say you have some additional services that you need to have done because you're new and you're not familiar with everything, then it might cost you up to 2,000. But there are book publishers out there that are self-published printers out there that you can get those things. You can get books done relatively inexpensive. What do traditional publishers want? Well, I can tell you that they do not want one hit wonders, because a one hit wonder has one book and no more. They want writers who can not just produce one book, but they can produce more than one and keep producing books, because that's when they buy into you, they want to be able to make a profit. And so they're not looking for one hit wonder. So if you are a person that you're writing and you love writing and you just have all these different ideas about writing, then you might be a good candidate for them to choose you as to be a part of their authors selections. Anyway, how many books do you have to sell to be considered successful? Well, judging from what the big boys would want, we're looking at about 10,000. That would make you successful. That would make their eyebrows go up. If you're a self-publisher and you're able to sell 10,000 books, let me tell you, somebody's going to be coming after you. Okay. What percentage of traditional publishers do the traditional publishers take? The traditional publishers, on average, well, it really depends on your contract. If you do have a contract, I would suggest, well, with the traditional publishers, you are not going to be able to avoid a contract, but with the self-publishers, I would suggest that you kind of stay away from contracts because they'll lock you in, and if you're not making any sales, you're locked in. So, but on average, a traditional publisher is about 10%. So 10% of the retail sales, even as a traditional publisher, that's what they get. But we all have these ideas. We've had these ideas. I did. I thought they got a lot more than that just for the book sales. But once I got into it, I started doing my research and I started really producing. Then I began to realize that that is about average of what they get. You get a little bit more from some of the self-publishers. You might get 50, 60, 70%. But you want to be able to buy your books and market your books yourself because that way you can keep a lot more. If you're a self-publisher and you're using the self-publisher or self-publisher print method, then you will be able to keep a lot more of the profit yourself. What does a contract with a traditional publisher look like, or what is involved with it? What is involved with the traditional publisher's contract is that you sign over the right to them to 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 print and sell your book, and they're going to do it for profit. So to print and sell your book for a profit. How much does an author make per book? We talked about that. 10% royalty. 10% of the retail sales is what you make or the author would make under the traditional publishing house. How many books will you need to sell to be a bestseller? In order to be a best-selling author, you would need to sell at least 5,000 books within a week. Okay? That's what the big boys would be looking at. If that happens, you can rest assured if you're self-published, somebody's going to be coming after you. How many books does the average self-published author sell? On average, from what I understand from my research, is about 250. So you're not even close. You can tell with those kind of numbers. So you want to make sure that you are at least conscientious of your numbers and what you're doing, and then set those goals so that you can get those numbers up. And that, of course, will involve you doing some marketing, and it would also involve some effort on your part. I know when most authors want the traditional, or most writers want the traditional publisher because they think that they don't have to really do anything. They can sit back and they'll do everything for them. If you are an unknown and invisible at this point, it's not going to happen like that. So you want to be serious about being in the business, and you want to be able to go forth and do what you need to do in order to make those sales, to increase those sales. So it depends on who you are. So if you the if oh the question is, do traditional publishers market your book? And it really, and I already talked about that a little bit. I remember when I was writing, I had to write a marketing plan for my book proposals, and or if you write one, you can just submit it with any of the other ones that want it. And I had to tell them what I was going to do, how I plan to market that my book. And so you don't get to just sit back and do nothing. Yeah, they'll look at your marketing plan, but I think what they're looking for is to see how really serious are you, and they want you to be proactive in the process as well. How often should you publish a book in the marketplace? I hear self-publishers just producing book after book after book, and I have, since I started out looking at the traditional publishing side, I've always looked at that. I look at them, I look to them for how I guide what I do. And what I recognize is that they don't produce book after book after book. They may have some space of time. It may be 6 months, it may be a year, it may be even longer than that, because sometimes when you submit your book may not even get published or printed for about 2 years. Okay, so I would say that you should space it out even as a self publisher, 6 months or a year. But also, what you want to do is you want to recoup your investment. So, why put another book in the marketplace just so you can say, I got 20, 30 books in the marketplace? You want those 20, you want that one book to help you to recoup your investment. And then now you're ready to reinvest into doing that second or third book. But it that would be wisdom, okay? But people do however they want to do. But like I said, I look to the big boys. I see, okay, well, if they're doing that, then I need to be doing what they're doing. And as a self-publisher, the spacing it out, it also helps you to fine tune, because you want to try to get as much as you can get out of that first book that you publish. You might turn it into an audio, you might do some different things. I mean, I've talked about that on some of my other videos, but you definitely want to get as much. You may want to do an ebook, or I don't know, Kindle or whatever, just so that you can just get more mileage out of that one book idea. And then by the time you go to the second book, now you've already fine tuned your marketing, you know what you need to do, and all of that. So, anyway, that's all that I have for today. If you need any additional help, I would suggest that perhaps you might want to invest in this book, Publishing Secrets, and it's about how to write, publish, and create an income as a first time author. So that is available to you if you want it. And until next time, Coach Blondie signing off. Keep the faith.